Welcome back. Just like we promised, we have been joined by a guest. His name is Damilola Balogun. He is a youth advocate, and together we'll be talking about youth empowerment, political participation with a view to sustainable development. He joins us live. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Welcome to the show.
It's my
Definitely
pleasure.
a pleasure to have you here as well. We've been looking forward to your visits all week, should I say that? Definitely.
Feels
Now,
good to be finally here.
this is obviously the season for conversations such as these, talking about youth empowerment, because we believe that to a large extent, even though we've sang the song growing up that we are the leaders of tomorrow, well, for all intents and purposes, tomorrow is here at hand.
Yeah.
This is the moment. So, and there's been a lot of back and forth about how, this could ever be achieved. What would you say are the, stumbling blocks towards achieving that ideal ecosystem where the youths and the older generation participate and join the political drive of the country? What would you say are the stumbling blocks to that?
All right, thank you very much for that question. And so it's important that as young people we need to begin to take action within our own immediate environment, and then moving on to the national and then international space. And so it is important that we have to work with the right mindset. And when we talk of the mindset here, we're talking about the mindset such that we are able to clearly understand our purpose, such that we are able to then govern our own space as well as the national and the international space when the time comes. So in addressing this, basically, what I would have to say is that young people need to understand one major thing. And that major thing really is that in every society, I mean, there are three sectors, or there are three divisions in every society. So number one, at the bottom, we have the masses. Those are the 80%. Those are the people you see from time to time, people you see everybody on the road market, everybody trying to complain this and that.
The bourgeoisie.
The bourgeoisies. And so at the middle, we have the culture shapers. These are the people that determine what the masses, what they do. And that's where we have the likes of the CEOs, the artists, Whiskey, Davido, as well as the Damilola Hamid, because those people are the ones that tell or determine what the masses do. And then it is also important to actually also emphasize that there is one more at the top of the society, which is the power center. Those are the people that arrest those in the middle and those at the bottom. So they decide everything that happens. And so some people call them the cabal, some people call them the power center, but these are the people you and I don't get to see, but they make decisions.
Or we feel them.
Yes, we feel them. And so it's also important that I emphasize here that these people make decisions for everybody in the society, although the second and the third set of individuals think they have a choice. No, the people at the top already created your choice. They already created the options for you. And so what you have there is that, for example, as the election is coming forth, they tell you that you have your voter's card, vote for this, vote for that, your voter's card is your power. No, that's a lie. The real deal is that the people at the top, the people you don't get to see, the people who have determined your options, they've already put in place measures as to how you get to vote for either of them because they've created the options for you.
It kind of sounds like a broad overstatement of the problem when you think about it critically.
Yeah, so basically what I'm trying to say is that as young people, we should begin to take stake. We should begin to determine things as it should be at the internal view. And so what I'm trying to say again is that I wouldn't tell people, get your voter's card and vote, more than I would tell them to make sure you become part of the party system that the candidates that gets to emerge gets to represent the political.
You're saying they have equal importance. It's not just by voting, but actively participating in the process, joining political parties and whatnot.
Yes,
okay, so
yes.
if talking about the participation now, do you think if the youth fully participates in these communities, do you think it will provide any solution? Do you think there will be any change whatsoever?
Okay, so one thing again is that a major problem in answering this question is education. Because it is clearly said that, and you would agree with me, that every change in human attitude that comes through internal understanding and acceptance of better values have long-lasting effects and unprecedented advancement. And so a lot of young people, and generally a lot of people in Nigeria, are not educated. Maybe you should allow me go ahead to define what education means. So education here I'm trying to talk about is not just being academically wired.
Yeah, okay.
So someone defined education as the ability of the human spirit to experience its environment and to question deeply, to see the options that exist in it. So they know the options to embrace as a matter of supreme urgency and importance. What that simply means is that you are able to see options that exist in it, and you are able to get the ones that actually work with your potential at best. And that's the only way society can function better. And that's why if you see every other countries that puts in this particular type of education where there is a system that supports one's natural endowment, the society would definitely thrive, because you're putting the right people in the right place with the right skill, with the right passion.
No misplaced priorities.
No misplaced priorities. And so for young people to thoroughly understand that, you understand that even you can be a professor, and by that definition of education, you can be a professor. You discover that the professor is not educated, although he's academically qualified. He has passed the test of technicalities, but that not of essence and meaning.
So I believe all of this basically leads to the fact that we are at a disadvantage because of the number of people that are out of school at this time, children out of school at this time, and with the back and forth that we have in our educational sector to make matters worse. You're saying that as of now, one of the major issues that we face is our education and the educated number of people among us. Is that correct?
Yes, education as explained.
As explained. Okay. Now, looking at that, first question I asked was the stumbling blocks. I actually did ask that. I know you've kind of mentioned one already. What else would you surmise is the issues that the youth are currently facing when it comes to getting into the upper echelon, like you described, the last layer, the decision makers, that arrests the other two layers? Experts have posited that there is no inherent unity among the young people, that everyone seems to have their own idealistic mandate. Everyone seems to have their own ideas and none want to meet in a common ground. Do you agree with that, or you have some other idea of the problems?
So what I think really is that it's fine for everyone to have different ambition and different ideology and view. And that's why we need the government to put in basic things that would bring everybody together and which will make us essentially be where we want to be as a country.
You think we need the government to bring us together?
Yes. It's of course it's the duty of the government to bring us together. And what I mean by bringing us together is, one, creating an enabling environment. And so I'm sure you must have heard of the word creating an enabling environment. Yeah. Everyone talks about that. Yeah. Everyone talks about that. But it is important that I as well go a bit further in explaining what I mean by creating an enabling environment as a viable tool to harness everybody together to then achieve what we want to achieve, despite our different ideologies. And so when we're talking about creating an enabling environment, everybody wants to thrive. A young person in Nigeria today does not see the future in Nigeria. And that's why you see everyone, they want to japa, they want to leave Nigeria. They believe that, there is really no future in Nigeria. There is really, and I don't blame them. It's because, when you see options available, you then see, okay, this is what I fit in. I don't fit into this. And some of them have the opportunity to do that, and they finally go. But one thing I'm not really happy with is the fact that so many people actually end up not fulfilling their divine purpose, sort of, which is to improve the world. And so when we're talking about creating an enabling environment, we have to understand that we have human beings, one, and then we have resources such as natural resources. So how do we intend to intersect the human factor and then the resources together to enter prosperity? So that's the purpose of the government. And to be honest, the private sector can only try. There is nobody who can do it better than the government. And so one major way of starting is the issue of education, educating people rightly according to how I've defined. And so we are also able to see that in Nigeria, we begin to emulate and bring up ideas, because one thing I've noticed, and I want to believe you agree with me, is that the most prosperous countries, individuals, and brands are brands that emanated locally, and they were able to get they were able to transcend borders. If you look at Japan today, Japan they don't have any natural resource.
Okay.
The only natural resource in Japan are the people in Japan. But because the government has created an enabling environment such that people in Japan are able to think of ideas, and they are able to transfer their ideas beyond the local space to the international space, and at the end of the day, bringing revenue back to Japan. Example is Panasonic. Panasonic is a brand in Japan. Example in Korea is LG. If you go to Germany, you're talking about Heineken, you're talking about Benz, you're talking about BMW.
Well, I think the idea from what you've said is that the government themselves need to lay the foundation for that growth and prosperity to occur. It kind of sounds like that. So, but getting to the point where we have the people in government who are willing to do this, I believe it's going to come as a result or the consequence of us coming together and electing the candidates that we believe will be the best for us. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, now, once again, I want to ask, what are stumbling blocks would you say befalling the youth at this point? Because we are talking about youth empowerment now. So
yeah, we've been talking about youth empowerment, we're talking about youth participation. What challenges do you think the youth are facing for them not to be able to participate?
Yeah.
Okay.
And what solutions can you even prefer?
All right, so again, one of it I said earlier is creating an enabling environment with the support of the government.
Okay.
Another problem that is affecting young people is probably family background.
Okay.
So the type of family you emanate from, your beliefs, your ideology, and then not able to clearly understand that you're supposed to collaborate with other young people despite your different ideology that you share.
Okay.
So another major problem would be the fact that young people generally are like the backbone of every society. And so a major thing that we can say affects really again is the fact that there are not job opportunities. And to be honest, you can talk of unemployment, you can talk of unemployability. So when the economics that shows that yes, unemployment exists in Nigeria is clear, there are young people who don't have jobs. I think a major problem that results as a stretch of unemployment is unemployability, which means not having the right capacity and skill to manage that employment such that you are able to be of value on the long run. So unemployment and unemployability is part of it. Another aspect you can say is, yes, poverty. Poverty is a major problem of the world. And so when you're talking about sustainable development goals, that's because I am an advocate of sustainable development goals by the United Nations. And then I'm able to clearly understand that poverty has a huge role to what we can achieve as individual, even as a country as a whole. So, I mean, poverty is a major problem, but again, how do we solve this? How to solve this is to make sure that we invest in the youth.
Definitely.
And how do we invest in the youth? We need to make sure that these young people are able to have the support of wherever they are placed in the society with their natural endowment, which is whatever skill and capacity that they have passion for.
Definitely.
So poverty is a major problem. So creating an unenabling environment is one. On the other hand, they say unemployment, and they will say poverty, and all of these things are the fundamental issues that we currently have in Nigeria.
Okay, so now I want to quickly change the narrative to from your perspective now.
All right.
Should you be, because many of us, we speak of what we prefer, what we think the government should do, that we prefer solutions, but now, if given the opportunity, do we have the track record of, really performing and delivering? And even if one argues that you shouldn't judge because we haven't had sufficient numbers in there, the numbers of youth that we've had, I think in the history of Nigeria up until now.
Is it in politics?
We should probably even use this dispensation, democratic dispensation, because I know if you're going to go to the past, we had young heads of state back in the day. So let's just use this current democracy, how we've seen, party to party hand over successive governments in the country now. Imagine you were given that position. a critical position, and you wanted to chart the course toward development as a young person, which areas would you start with? Where would you begin? What's the roadmap you would follow?
Okay, so the major one that I know touches on all aspects of every sector is education.
Education, that should be the ideal first step.
Yes. So you see, the Minister of Education might even be more important in the development of a country than the president.
That's interesting.
Because education is important. I mean, once you are able to clearly understand why you're doing what you're doing, you would do
it well and do it better.
And they say that when we know better, we do better.
We do better.
So we complain about how bad Nigeria is today. Nigeria is not made up of wood. It's not made up of stones. It's not made up of sand. It's made up of citizens, people. So whatever we are responsible for is because of what we have believed and what we have done, which is amounting to what Nigeria is right now. So education cannot be overemphasized. The need to educate people to be able to understand what they do, why they do. I mean, I was just coming today and then I was looking through and I saw that there was someone from the bus who dropped a plastic bottle on the floor. And I'm like, okay, so you want to wait for the president to tell you not to do that again? So I mean, it's a collective effort of what we have done right now. So if we say that, yes, we want to address education, then we can say we are ready to be on at the departure lounge, ready to take the flight for development in Nigeria.
I think that's pretty interesting, don't you think? Definitely.
Okay, so let me ask this question. Talking about the youths as assets for sustainable good development, can you really expatiate on this? What does it really mean? Youth as an asset for sustainable development.
All right, thank you very much for that question. And so I was reading through the United Nations reports, and then I discovered that in the world there are over 88 billion persons, and there are 1.8 billion individuals between the ages of 15 to 24. So you see the quarter of that population, so to say, world population, are young people. And so, like I said earlier on again, young people are the strength and they are the core value of any society. And so it is important that they are wired and given necessary facilities in order to promote development. And so when you're talking about the UN Sustainable Development Goals on one hand, these are like the blueprints for development of the world. Talking about no poverty, talking about zero hunger, talking about partnership for the goals. All of these goals are the current problems affecting the world. And so it is important that seeing that young people have the strength and they have the ability to innovate, they get to be supported in order to actualize this goal as set by the United Nations in 2030. And a bit of my organization, the Youth Sustainable Development, that's what we do. And so far we have been able to impact 2,000 youths across the world.
Definitely. I think we've actually spoke a great deal about the possibilities for Nigeria. What would be, in a final note, your advice to young people at the moment? Because we are at the precipice of change. Any moment from now, we will be witnessing another hallmark in our democratic process. So in a very short time, 60 seconds or less, tell us one parting shot, as wisdom would always say, before we go on today.
All right, so that question is actually going to need a symposium discussion, but I mean, in 60 seconds, I'll just expatiate. So basically, what I would say is it is time to think global. It is time to think global. We have all lost our rights to think locally. We need to start innovating. We need to think of ideas. We need to think of ways as to how our value can be represented across the continent. And I think specifically for this decade, this is something that is a bit easier now. So what value do you want to represent if someone from Colombia reaches out to you? What value do you want to represent if someone from Asia reaches out to you? Because this value you represent determines the level as to which you will go, and then determines the level upon which your country will develop. So coming together to work and then thinking global and thinking of the impact you can make would be a very good way to start for young people.
Definitely. We've lost the right to think locally. Very interesting.
It is time to think global.
Global, definitely. Thank you very much for joining us today. We appreciate your comments on the subject. We hope to have you again some other time.
Thank you very much.
Definitely. Do stay with us. Daybreak Africa continues shortly. We'll be back. Don't go anywhere.